Hello, this is just some tips and information to keep in mind when you're writing your appeals and exit procedures for your identification plan. Okay, first, when thinking about your appeals procedure, the first thing you want to do is specify a timeline. You don't want the appeals process to drag out through the whole year, so maybe you specify a timeline after letters of notification of identification for high ability programming have been sent out. Maybe you will entertain appeals for 3 weeks. And then once you've received an appeal, make sure that you tell the person who's appealing that you will have a response back to them by a certain date as well, just to make sure the process is quick and not dragging on. You will also want to specify alternative measures to use in the appeals process. By that I mean you want to have a secondary norm reference measure of achievement and a norm reference measure of aptitude that you can administer to the student so you have multiple data points to consider. We all know that sometimes something happens on the day of testing, and if the child was having a bad day or was sick or something when the initial norm reference measures were given, we want to make sure the child has another opportunity to take an alternative parallel test to ensure that we get the most accurate results. Something to keep in mind, though, the parent should not be responsible for the cost of this alternative testing. The reason that is we need to make sure that our process is fair for students who might come from disadvantaged backgrounds whose parents simply can't afford to pay for the additional testing. So that expense should be at the cost of the district or to the district. And finally, make sure that a committee is going to review the appeals, not just the high ability coordinator or a teacher or something like that. We need to make sure that there's a committee so it's not one person making the decisions. Okay, when we look at the exit procedures, again, a few things to keep in mind. Before exiting a child from the program, we need to make sure that we have 2 conferences that take place. And the conference should include the student, the parents, the high ability coordinator, and the teacher. At that initial conference, the student's performance will be discussed and interventions will be decided upon and agreed upon by all members of that conference. And then the interventions need to be in place with fidelity for at least one grading period so that there's an opportunity to see whether or not those interventions are going to help the student be successful. After that agreed upon time period, all parties will come again together for a second conference. At this time, the student's progress will be discussed and it will be determined whether or not the student can remain in the program as long as those interventions are kept in place. If the student was still not able to be successful even after the interventions, then it might be decided that it's time for the student to exit the program. If that is the decision, then one needs to make sure that the high ability designation is removed from that student's STN number. Okay, again, those are just some tips to keep in mind. Again, there'll be some variation on the appeals and the exit procedures, but making sure that those factors are included will make sure that your procedures are sound. Thank you.